Have you ever loved someone so deeply, only to feel like that love was slowly destroying you? Toxic love doesn't always start as toxic. It often begins with fireworks, late-night talks, butterflies in your stomach, and a feeling that this time you finally found someone who understands you. But then the games start, the ghosting, the manipulation, the highs so high they feel addictive, and the lows so low they make you question your worth. Here's the truth. Most of us mistake intensity for love. We cling to chaos because it feels exciting, but excitement fades, pain lingers. This is where Stoicism steps in, not to make you cold or detached, but to help you see love with clear eyes, protect your peace, and stop confusing suffering for passion. In this video, we'll explore how Stoic wisdom can rescue you from toxic love, guide you through heartbreak, and teach you how to build healthier, calmer connections without losing yourself in the process. Because real love shouldn't feel like drowning. It should feel like coming home. Love is one of the most powerful forces we can experience. It can inspire us to grow, to give, and to become better versions of ourselves. But it can also become dangerous when it shifts from a source of joy to a source of control. The Stoics warned us about this long ago. Emotions are not the enemy, but letting them rule us is. According to Stoic philosophy, the problem is not love itself, but how we handle the attachments that come with it. Epictetus famously said, "When you are delighted with anything, remember that it is not your own, but that of another." What he meant was simple yet profound. Love deeply, but understand that nothing outside your control, not even the affection of another person, can be truly possessed. When we forget this, emotions take the driver's seat. Fear of losing someone, the craving for validation, or the anxiety of not being enough begin to dictate our choices. That's when love turns from connection into dependency, when passion starts to feel like a trap. But Stoicism does not ask us to reject love or become emotionally numb. Instead, it teaches us to love with clarity, not chaos. To value the person we care about without turning them into the source of our self-worth. To enjoy the presence of someone we love while still knowing we would be whole without them. This mindset protects us from falling into destructive patterns, tolerating ghosting, manipulation, or drama just because we fear being alone. It gives us the strength to say, "I choose love, but I do not choose suffering." And that's where Stoicism becomes more than philosophy. It becomes emotional armor. It helps us see clearly when a relationship is nurturing us and when it's slowly eroding who we are. But how do we spot the signs early before the damage is done? How do we recognize when love has crossed into toxic territory? That's where we go next. Spotting toxic patterns early. If Stoicism teaches us to love with clarity, then the first step is learning to see clearly, and that means recognizing when a relationship has already taken a toxic turn. Toxic relationships rarely announce themselves. They don't always start with red flags waving in the wind. More often, they begin with charm, excitement, and the feeling of being chosen. But over time, subtle behaviors reveal the truth. Behaviors that the Stoics would call distractions of the mind, pulling us away from reason and peace. Take ghosting, for example. One day, everything seems fine. The next, the person vanishes without explanation. Stoicism reminds us we cannot control another's actions, only our response. Ghosting isn't about you. It's about their inability to communicate with integrity. Recognizing that early spares you from endless self-blame. Then there's breadcrumbing, giving just enough attention to keep you hooked, but never committing to real connection. It's emotional starvation disguised as affection. A Stoic lens helps you see it for what it is: inconsistency, not love. Manipulation is even trickier because it wears many masks: guilt-tripping, gaslighting, subtle control. The Stoic safeguard? Question not just what is being said, but what effect it has on your peace of mind. Love that distorts your reality is not love, it's control. And then there's love bombing, an overwhelming shower of affection, gifts, and promises that feels intoxicating at first, but often serves to create dependency. The Stoics warn us, anything that feels too good to be true without proof of consistency usually is. Spotting these patterns early allows you to step back and ask the Stoic question: does this relationship support my virtue and peace, or does it cost me both? Because the truth is, we often see the signs, but ignore them. Why? Because desire, ego, and fear of being alone cloud our judgment. Which brings us to the next part: why we fall for toxic people, and how Stoicism helps us break that cycle. If spotting toxic patterns is about awareness, understanding why we're drawn to them is about self-honesty. Because here's the hard truth: most of us don't stumble into toxic relationships by accident. We are pulled toward them by forces inside us: desire, ego, and fear. Desire makes us crave intensity. We mistake emotional highs for passion, thinking, "This must be love because it feels so strong." The Stoics would challenge that belief, reminding us that strong emotions can cloud judgment, much like fog over a calm sea. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If it's endurable, then endure it. Stop complaining." But in love, we sometimes do the opposite. We romanticize the chaos instead of questioning why we endure it. Then comes ego. Toxic relationships often trigger a need to prove ourselves, to win back their attention, to be chosen, to be good enough. It's not just about them. It's about what their approval says about us. But the Stoics warn, when your worth depends on someone else's opinion, you give away your freedom. And freedom is the foundation of inner peace. Finally, fear of being alone keeps us tethered to relationships we know are wrong. The silence of solitude can feel heavier than the noise of chaos. But Stoicism reframes solitude, not as emptiness, but as a return to the self. It's where clarity, strength, and true self-love are born. When we see how these forces, desire, ego, fear, pull us toward what hurts us, we can start to break the cycle, not by rejecting love, but by loving with reason and self-respect. Because once we understand why we fall for toxic people, we can learn to stop before the damage is done. Next, we'll explore the core Stoic principle that can guide you through heartbreak and help you take back control, separating what you can and can't control. If there is one principle Stoicism is built upon, it's this: peace comes from focusing only on what you can control and letting go of what you can't. In love, this is easier said than done. Heartbreak tempts us to believe that if we had done more, been more loving, more patient, more perfect, the outcome would have changed. We replay conversations, analyze text messages, and wonder what we could have said differently to make them stay. But this is where Stoicism draws a firm line. Epictetus wrote, "Some things are in our control, and others not. Your choices, your actions, your thoughts, those belong to you. The feelings, actions, and decisions of others, they never did." No amount of overthinking can rewrite someone else's will. This principle doesn't make heartbreak painless, but it prevents it from becoming endless. Instead of spiraling in regret, you begin to separate. What part of this is mine to own? Maybe it's how you set boundaries. Maybe it's how you chose to ignore red flags. But what they did, how they left, lied, or mistreated you, was never yours to control. This clarity shifts heartbreak from self-punishment to self-growth. It allows you to ask, what did I learn about myself? What can I handle differently next time? And then, let the rest go. Because clinging to what's outside your control is like trying to hold water in your hands. The harder you squeeze, the faster it slips away. And when chaos strikes, when emotions surge and you feel like you might break, Stoicism offers another lesson: how to stay calm in the storm, which is exactly where we go next. How to stay calm in the chaos of modern dating. Modern dating can feel like standing in the middle of a storm. Messages, mixed signals, ghosting, and sudden highs and lows that leave you emotionally exhausted. But according to Stoicism, the storm isn't the problem. The problem is whether we let the storm control us. Emotional self-mastery is not about suppressing feelings, it's about guiding them. The Stoics believed emotions are natural, but our reactions to them determine whether we suffer. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." In dating, this means not letting someone's inconsistency dictate your mood, not letting a delayed text send you spiraling, not letting rejection convince you that you are unworthy. Emotional self-mastery is the practice of pausing before reacting, asking, is this worth my peace? Is this within my control? One powerful Stoic tool is negative visualization, imagining setbacks before they happen so you're not blindsided by them, not to become cynical, but to build resilience. If someone leaves, if plans fall apart, you've already prepared your mind to remain steady. Another is reframing, seeing challenges as opportunities to practice virtue. A frustrating date becomes a chance to practice patience. A disappointing connection becomes a lesson in self-respect. This doesn't mean dating becomes emotionless. On the contrary, it becomes deeper, calmer, and more intentional. Because when you are no longer ruled by every emotional high or low, you are free to love without fear. But what about the pain of rejection or abandonment? How do you turn that into something that strengthens you rather than breaks you? That's where Stoicism offers one of its most powerful lessons: reframing rejection and abandonment. Rejection and abandonment are among the deepest pains we experience in love. They trigger questions like, was I not good enough? Did I do something wrong? Why wasn't I chosen? But Stoicism invites us to see these moments not as proof of our inadequacy, but as opportunities for growth. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been." While heartbreak feels like harm, the Stoic view is that the event itself is neutral. It is our interpretation that makes it painful. When someone rejects us, they are simply expressing their preference, their readiness, or their limitations, not our value. When someone abandons us, they reveal their character, not our worth. The pain comes from the story we attach to their actions. I wasn't enough. I failed. I lost. But Stoicism encourages a new story. This is not loss. It is clarity. Every rejection clears the path for alignment with someone or something better suited for your growth. Every abandonment teaches resilience, reminding you that you can survive what you feared would break you. Pain becomes a teacher, not a life sentence. One Stoic practice for reframing is the view from above, imagining your life from from a higher perspective, where this heartbreak is just one small chapter in a much larger story. Suddenly, the pain feels smaller, not because it doesn't matter, but because it doesn't define everything. Another practice is focusing on virtue, asking, how can I respond to this in a way that makes me better? Instead of bitterness, choose wisdom. Instead of closing your heart, choose to strengthen it. Because the ultimate truth, rejection is redirection, abandonment is liberation, and heartbreak, when seen through the Stoic lens, is a forge for inner strength. Next, we'll explore how to protect that strength by setting clear boundaries without guilt. One of the hardest lessons in love and in life is learning how to say no without feeling guilty. We fear that setting boundaries will make us seem cold, selfish, or unloving, but Stoicism reminds us that boundaries are not walls. They are guides that protect our peace and preserve our virtue. The Stoics believe that true freedom comes from living according to reason, not being pulled in every direction by other people's demands or emotions. Epictetus wrote, "No person is free who is not master of themselves." Boundaries are a reflection of that mastery. They are not punishments to others, but promises to yourself. I will not compromise my values for temporary comfort. I will not sacrifice my peace for chaos disguised as love. So what does it mean to set boundaries the Stoic way? First, it means being clear about what you stand for, your principles, your limits, and your definition of respect. Then, it means calmly and firmly communicating those limits, not with anger, but with composure. Because a boundary spoken with calm confidence carries more weight than one shouted in frustration. Second, it means letting go of guilt. Guilt often arises when we confuse kindness with compliance. But Stoicism teaches that kindness without integrity is not kindness, it's self-betrayal. Saying no to toxic behavior, to disrespect, or to emotional manipulation is not selfish, it's self-respect in action. Finally, it means holding your boundaries consistently. A line drawn and then erased is not a boundary, it's a suggestion. The Stoic approach is to decide firmly what you will and will not accept, and then stand by it, not with harshness, but with quiet strength. Because boundaries do more than protect you. They elevate the quality of your relationships. They signal to others how to treat you, and just as importantly, how you treat yourself. And that's where we go next. Why respecting yourself attracts healthy love. The quality of the love you attract often mirrors the quality of the love you give yourself. Stoicism teaches that our inner world, our values, self-respect, and sense of worth, shapes how others treat us. If we value ourselves deeply, we naturally set higher standards for the connections we allow into our lives. Self-respect begins with recognizing your own worth, not because of what others think of you, but because of the virtues you practice daily. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. When your thoughts are grounded in strength and clarity, your relationships follow suit." Many people fall into toxic patterns because they approach love from a place of emptiness, hoping someone else will fill it. But Stoicism warns against seeking happiness in things outside your control, especially another person. Instead, it calls you to build inner stability first, so you enter love as a whole person, not a half searching for completion. This self-respect sets the tone for what you accept. You no longer settle for ghosting, manipulation, or inconsistent affection because you understand your peace is worth more than temporary attention. You stop excusing behavior that contradicts your values, and you start attracting partners who align with them. Healthy love doesn't thrive on chaos. It thrives on shared principles, trust, and mutual respect. And when you carry yourself with quiet confidence, people sense it. Some will rise to meet your standard, others will fade away. Both outcomes protect your well-being. But self-respect isn't just about filtering who comes into your life. It's about how you handle the temptation to stay in situations that don't serve you. Stoicism reminds us that detachment isn't about caring less. It's about valuing yourself enough to walk away when necessary. And speaking of walking away, how do you stop getting pulled back into toxic cycles, those patterns of drama and chaos that keep repeating? That's where we go next. Escaping the cycle of drama and chaos. Detaching from emotional traps. Toxic relationships often feel like a carousel of highs and lows. Intense affection one moment, painful distance the next. We tell ourselves this time will be different, only to find ourselves back in the same emotional storm. Why? Because drama can be addictive, and breaking free requires more than walking away. It requires breaking the attachment to chaos itself. Stoicism calls this attachment a trap of the mind. We chase dramatic love because it feels exciting, alive, and validating. But the Stoics warn that what excites us can also enslave us if we mistake intensity for value. Epictetus wrote, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." Drama lies firmly in that category, outside our control, designed to pull us away from reason. To escape the cycle, Stoicism teaches detachment, not coldness, but clarity. Detachment means stepping back and asking, does this relationship align with my peace, my values, my growth, or does it feed my ego and fears at the cost of my well-being? The answer determines whether you stay trapped or break free. adversity. One way to practice detachment is through premeditatio malorum, or premeditation of adversity. Imagine the drama continuing. Ask yourself where this path leads in 6 months, a year, 5 years. Seeing the pain ahead strips the illusion of romance from toxic patterns. Another is self-dialogue, writing down the principles you refuse to compromise on and reading them whenever temptation strikes. This keeps you rooted in reason when emotions try to pull you back into chaos. Escaping the cycle isn't about finding someone new to distract you. It's about creating inner stillness, so chaos no longer feels like love, and peace no longer feels like boredom. And when you've finally broken free, the question becomes, how do you heal? How do you rebuild trust in yourself and in love without slipping back into old patterns? That's where we go next. Healing after a toxic relationship. Stoic practices for emotional recovery. Breaking free from a toxic relationship is only the first step. The harder part is healing, the process of untangling your identity from the chaos, reclaiming your sense of self, and learning to trust again. Stoicism offers a framework for this. Recovery grounded in reason, reflection, and inner strength. The first Stoic practice is acceptance of reality. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Don't hope that events will turn out the way you want. Welcome events in whichever way they happen." Healing begins when we stop wishing the past had been different. The relationship ended. The pain happened. Now, the question is not why me, but what can I do now to grow from it? The second practice is self-reflection without self-blame. Stoics believed in examining one's actions, not to punish oneself, but to learn. Ask, where did I ignore red flags? What values did I compromise? What boundaries will I uphold next time? This transforms pain into a teacher, guiding you toward better choices. The third practice is rebuilding through daily discipline. Healing isn't a single decision. It's a series of small, consistent actions. Journaling to process emotions, meditating to regain calm, and immersing yourself in activities that reinforce your sense of purpose. The Stoics called this living, in accordance with nature, choosing actions that align with virtue, not despair. Finally, healing involves reframing solitude. Instead of seeing it as emptiness, see it as a sanctuary, a space to strengthen your mind and reconnect with who you are outside of any relationship. Solitude, as the Stoics understood, is not loneliness. It's the ground where self-respect and peace take root. And once you've begun to heal, a new challenge arises: forgiveness. But forgiveness in the Stoic sense doesn't always mean reconciliation, which leads us to the next lesson: forgiveness without reconciliation, letting go without losing self-respect. One of the most misunderstood ideas about healing is the belief that forgiveness means reconciliation, that to move forward, we must welcome the person who hurt us back into our lives. Stoicism offers a different perspective. True forgiveness frees your heart, not their place beside you. The Stoics saw resentment as a burden, a heavy weight that chains you to the past. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." Holding on to bitterness means continuing to suffer long after the harm is done. Forgiveness, in the Stoic sense, is a release, a decision to stop carrying the anger, the pain, and the desire for revenge. But here's the key. Releasing resentment doesn't mean excusing harmful behavior or reopening the door to someone who has proven unworthy of your trust. Reconciliation requires mutual growth, accountability, and change, things that may never happen. Forgiveness only requires you to choose peace over poison. How do you do this? First, by separating what is yours to control from what isn't. You cannot control whether someone apologizes, changes, or understands the pain they caused. You can only control how long you let their actions define your emotional state. Second, by focusing on virtue. Ask yourself, what response reflects the best version of me? Is it staying angry, or is it releasing the anger while standing firm in my boundaries? Finally, by practicing gratitude, not for what happened, but for what it taught you. Every painful chapter carries a lesson in strength, wisdom, or self-respect. Recognizing this allows forgiveness to feel less like surrender and more like victory. Forgiveness, then, is not about letting someone back in. It's about letting yourself move on. It's not about losing self-respect. It's about reclaiming it. And once you've done that, you can turn heartbreak into something even more powerful: wisdom. Which leads us to the next lesson: turning heartbreak into wisdom, learning without becoming bitter. Heartbreak has the power to harden us or to deepen us. Many people, after enduring betrayal or abandonment, vow never to love again, closing their hearts out of fear. But Stoicism offers another path, one where pain becomes a source of strength and insight, not bitterness. The Stoics believe that every hardship carries within it a lesson about ourselves and the world. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." In other words, what hurts us most can also guide us toward growth if we choose to see it that way. The first step is reflection without resentment. Rather than asking, "Why did this happen to me?" ask, "What can I learn from this? Did it teach me to set better boundaries? To value self-respect over approval? To recognize red flags earlier?" Each answer transforms pain into practical wisdom, lessons you carry into every future relationship. The second step is guarding against cynicism. Stoicism warns against letting one experience shape your view of all experiences. Just because one person hurt you does not mean love itself is dangerous. Bitterness generalizes pain. Wisdom isolates it, studies it, and grows beyond it. The third step is practicing gratitude for growth. Not gratitude for the hurt, but for the resilience it built, for the clarity it brought, for the stronger, calmer, wiser version of you that emerged on the other side. Finally, wisdom means moving forward with an open heart, but a guarded mind. You don't forget the lessons, but you don't let them close you off from future happiness either, because heartbreak isn't the end of your story. It's a chapter that can make the rest of your story richer if you choose to let it. And when you do, you learn the final lesson of this journey: how to love without losing yourself. That's where we go next. Loving without losing yourself. Balance between care and detachment. One of Stoicism's greatest lessons is learning how to care deeply without becoming consumed. Many people mistake detachment for coldness, but to the Stoics, detachment simply means loving from a place of strength rather than fear. Epictetus wrote, "When you are delighted with anything, remember that it is not your own, but that of another." This doesn't mean we shouldn't cherish love. It means we should love while remembering we cannot control another's choices, emotions, or permanence in our lives. True love honors freedom, both theirs and yours. The Stoic approach to love begins with self-possession, the ability to remain whole, regardless of whether someone stays or leaves. When you know who you are and what you stand for, you can give freely without losing yourself. You can care deeply without becoming desperate. You can be vulnerable without being dependent. This balance also allows you to handle the natural ups and downs of relationships with composure. Arguments no longer feel like earthquakes. Distance no longer feels like abandonment. Because your peace no longer depends on someone else's actions. It depends on your principles. Another key is practicing presence over possession, valuing moments of connection for what they are, not clinging to them out of fear of losing them. The Stoics taught that everything in life is borrowed: our time, our possessions, even our relationships. When we accept this truth, we stop grasping and start appreciating. Loving without losing yourself also means maintaining a life outside of love, a life of purpose, friendships, and personal growth. Love is a part of a good life, not its entirety. Stoicism reminds us that meaning comes from living virtuously, not from attaching our identity to another person. This approach doesn't make love less intense. It makes it stronger, purer, and calmer. Because when you no longer fear losing yourself, you can love fully and freely. And that leads us to the final lesson: how Stoicism creates not just balanced love, but healthier, happier connections overall. Stoicism is often seen as a philosophy of self-control and inner peace, but when applied to love, it becomes a guide to building connections that are not only deep, but also emotionally healthy. The key? Integrity and calm, two qualities that transform how we love and how we are loved in return. At its core, Stoicism teaches that our happiness should never be placed in the hands of another person. Instead, it rests on how we live, honorably, wisely, and with self-respect. When we bring this mindset into relationships, we stop clinging, manipulating, or fearing loss. Instead, we create an atmosphere of mutual trust and freedom, where love can thrive without suffocating either person. Integrity means showing up as your best self, honest, fair, and aligned with your values. No games, no power struggles, no bending yourself into someone you're not, just to be accepted. The Stoics believe that virtue, not passion, not possession, is the foundation of a good life. And when both people live by their values, love becomes steadier, calmer, and far less fragile. Calm, on the other hand, allows you to handle inevitable challenges with grace. Misunderstandings, disagreements, even moments of distance. These no longer spark panic or drama. Instead, you meet them with measured responses, guided by reason rather than impulse. You don't overreact because you understand what's in your control and what isn't. Moreover, Stoicism helps you choose better connections in the first place. When you value inner peace, you're less likely to settle for relationships filled with chaos, manipulation, or disrespect. You know your worth, and you expect your relationships to reflect it, not through grand gestures or constant reassurance, but through consistency, care, and shared values. This is how Stoicism leads to healthier, happier love, not by making you colder, but by making you clearer. Clear about who you are, clear about what matters, clear about how to love in a way that strengthens rather than weakens you. And when you love this way, you don't just build relationships, you build harmony within yourself, with others, and with life itself. If there's one thing Stoicism teaches us, it's this: love can elevate you or consume you. The difference lies in whether you stay true to yourself. Toxic love thrives where boundaries are blurred, where fear replaces clarity, and where pain becomes a habit. But you don't have to live in that cycle. You can choose a different path, one built on emotional resilience, self-respect, and calm strength. The Stoics believed that while you can't control other people, you can control what you tolerate, what you value, and what you walk away from. And that might be the most freeing truth of all. So what about you? Have you ever mistaken chaos for connection? What lesson did it teach you about love and about yourself? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear your stories. And if this video sparked something in you, if you felt even a small shift in how you see love, stick around. We have more lessons on ancient wisdom for modern struggles, helping you live and love with strength, clarity, and peace. Because heartbreak may hurt, but it can also make you wiser.